Hi, welcome back to the Finley Formation. This is Brandon.
This Gage.
And this is Jared. Continuing on our team countdown, we're on pick number 16 with the Arizona Cardinals. And the Arizona Cardinals are the oldest franchise in NFL history. So they originally they established in Chicago in 1898.
Wow.
And before the actual NFL or the NFL became a thing in 1920, it was all just a whole bunch of like independent leagues, but they were known as the Morgan Athletic Club. They were founded by Chris O'Brien, and so I'm going to go into a little bit of their team history. It's pretty extensive. So they started off as the Morgan Athletic Club in 1898, and then the following year they turned into the Racine Normals in 1899, and then the year after that they became the Racine Street Cardinals, and the Cardinals name came from they got jerseys from like the University of Chicago, and the team owner was like, "Oh, these look like Cardinal red jerseys," so they became the Cardinals. That's how they became the Cardinals.
Ah,
They were the Street Cardinals from 1901 to 1906. The team disbanded in '06 because of lack of competition. There just wasn't a whole lot of, I guess, interest in independent football back then for a couple years. And then they came back together in 1913 to 1919, and then in 1920 they became the Chicago Cardinals, which that's when the NFL became an actual league. So they were the Chicago Cardinals till 1943, and then in 1944 they merged with the Pittsburgh Steelers for one season because of
World War II.
World War II. There was a player shortage, so those two teams became the Card Pit team in 1944. So, and then after that, they were following year 1945. They went back to the Chicago Cardinals, and up until 1959, they moved to St. Louis, and they shared the team name with the baseball team, St. Louis Cardinals, up until 1987. And then they ended up moving to Phoenix or Tempe. They moved to Tempe, but they were known as the Phoenix Cardinals from 1988 till 1993. And then in 1994, they became the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow.
A lot of history.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Uh,
And it's funny when you say Racine
mhm.
because that reminds me of that A League of Their Own.
Yes, it
Yeah.
yeah, that's where I first
And
because I've heard this name before. So when I was doing the history, I
right.
looked that up. I was like, oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense. They've been, like I said, they started off in Chicago. They moved to St. Louis in 1960. They moved to Tempe in 1988, and then final place that they've been is they built their stadium in Glendale, Arizona in 2006. So Glendale and Tempe are about, I don't know, 30 miles apart. I think just same valley, Phoenix Valley, but three different places. Let's see. They have 11 playoff appearances. I think that
Wow.
counts from 1920. I think that's when the playoff
Okay.
appearances start.
Mhm.
So 1920, so 104 seasons probably.
Wow.
It started in 1920. They have 11 playoff appearances.
Jeez.
Not a whole lot starting in the 2000s. So if we just went in the 2000s, it's 2008, 2009, 2014, 2015, 2021, and then everything else besides that, there's a long history of not making the playoffs. They have 7 division championships, one conference championship that came in 2008, and that's when they lost the Super Bowl to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Super Bowl 43, 27 to 23. They have 2 league championships pre-merger, so in 1925 and 1947, they actually did win some championships, but they have the longest active streak of any North American sports of championship droughts, and that's 70 going on 77 seasons now.
Jeez.
Wow.
Retired numbers. They have 5 retired numbers. Number 8, Larry Wilson. He was a safety from 1960 to 1972. Number 40, Pat Tillman. He was a safety 1998 to 2001. That one's significant because our own military killed him when he decided to go into the
Yeah.
Army Reserves after 9/11.
Yeah.
He died from friendly fire. Um, Number 77, Stan Molden. He was an offensive tackle from 1946 to 48. Number 88, J.V. Kane. He was a tight end from 74 to 78. And then number 99, Marshall Goldberg. He was a halfback 1939 to 43. But if you remember, J.J. Watt wore 99 his last 2 seasons there
Oh,
with the
okay.
Cardinals. So he got permission from Marshall Goldberg's daughter to wear 99
Oh,
for the
nice.
2001 and 2002 season. But it is a retired number. They have 14 Pro
You mean
Football
the
Hall of Famers.
2021,
Yeah,
Okay.
2021, 2022 seasons, J.J. Watt was able to wear
Right.
99.
I think you said 2001,
Oh,
2002,
sorry, yeah.
so I was a little
Mm.
confused for a second.
Because I think those were the last 2 years that J.J. Watt played.
Yeah.
He played
Yeah.
with the Cardinals.
that
But yeah,
makes
he was
sense.
able to wear that. But it's still a retired number.
Okay.
They have 14 Hall of Famers. Ernie Nevers, fullback. Guy Chamberlain, DN/coach in the 1920s. John Patty Driscoll, quarterback in the 1920s. Charlie Trippi, running back from the 1940s through the 50s. Ollie Matson, running back in the 1950s. Dick Night Train Lane, cornerback, 1950s. He's probably the most notable one. Larry Wilson, safety. Mentioned him before for retired numbers. Jackie Smith, tight end, 1960s through the 70s. Dan Deerdorf, offensive tackle, 1970s through the 80s. Roger Worley, cornerback through the 60s through the 80s. Aeneas Williams, cornerback, the 90s through the 2000 season. Dick Slater, tackle, 1926 through 31. And then Jimmy Klonsman, coach in the 1940s. And then Charles Bidwell, owner in the 1930s through 47. They're all-time statistical leaders. You have to go back for passing anyway to the 1960s was Jim Hart. He played in 199 games. He's our all-time passing leader in yards and touchdowns and INTs. He has 34,639 yards, 209 touchdowns, and he also has 247 interceptions.
Oh,
Wow. A
They
negative
gave him a
touchdown to
a
interception
long
ratio.
leash there.
So that kind of showed
Yeah,
you that
that's a
kind of
Brett
correlates
Jameis
with their
Winston, yeah.
their success, that they don't have a whole lot, that their leading passer is somebody from the 60s that's threw almost 40 more interceptions than he did touchdowns.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So back with our Hall of Famers, Aeneas Williams. I've always seen it as Anus. Makes it more
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Anus
It is,
Williams.
yeah,
It
it is kind of spelled like that. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess it depends on how you want to pronounce it. Rushing, Otis Anderson. He played in the 70s and 80s, 99 games. He has just under 8,000 rushing yards, and he's also has the leading touchdown go at 46 rushing touchdowns. So
Wow.
a team that's been around for 100 or over 120 some years, that it's not like impressive. Receiving is where it starts to get a little bit more impressive. You got Larry Fitzgerald. He's the all-time leading receiver. 263 games. He is 17,492 yards. That's second all-time to Jerry Rice. 121 touchdowns. That's sixth all-time. And then 141,432 receptions, which ranks second all-time to Jerry Rice.
Yep.
One interesting thing about that is the all-time or the single game receiving or single season receiving record. Larry Fitzgerald doesn't have it. It goes to David Boston. At like
Oh, really?
15,000, yeah,
Oh,
which
wow.
kind of surprised me. He has all these records, but he doesn't have like the single season.
Mhm.
What happens
receiving
when you
record.
play till you're 43, though?
True, one good person can have a really good season.
Yep.
Defensively, all-time tackles leader is Eric Hill. He was a linebacker from the 80s and 90s. He played in 133 games, 785 solo tackles. Chandler Jones is the all-time sack leader.
That makes sense.
He played in 84 games. He has 71 and a half sacks. And then Larry Wilson is the all-time interceptions leader. He played in 169 games. He has 52 interceptions. Notable players, we'll start off with the quarterbacks. This one resonated with me, was Jake Plummer.
Yep.
I always
Plummer.
remember Jake Plummer being an Arizona Cardinal
Yeah.
quarterback. He played in 84 games. Carson Palmer played in 60 games. Kurt Warner played in 61 games. And then Matt Leinart played in 29 games. He was like one of the very first ones. I know we had like, we talked about him, that quarterback for the Cardinals. That was a bust. He was like one of the all-time biggest busts, the quarterback for the Cardinals. Or not the Cardinals, the Chargers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ryan Leaf.
Ryan Leaf.
Ryan
Yeah.
Leaf.
I didn't really, I kind of knew his NFL history, but Matt Leinart to me was one of the first, like watching him in college on that USC team, and I was just like, man, this guy won a Heisman. He's going to be good. He's prototypical. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. He can throw the heck out of the football, and then he was a first-round pick, 10th overall pick, and he just never panned out.
Yeah.
And it was, I think that was, for me, that was like one of the first quarterbacks I was like, oh, man, this is kind of surprising. He was a bust. But he
Right.
only played in 29 games. Running backs, Stump Mitchell, he was kind of number 2 in everything, 116 games. Beanie Wells, 51 games. Edgerrin James was 45 games. And then Larry Centers, as a fullback, played in 126 games. Receivers, Roy Green, 168 games. Anquan Bolden, 95 games. I just remember Anquan Bolden being drafted there with Larry Fitzgerald, and it was like, oh, these guys are pretty good
Yeah.
together.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gave him the Niners for a bit.
He did, yeah.
If only Fitz would have too.
Ricky Prohl played in 80 games, which kind of surprised me because we remember Ricky Prohl being on the St. Louis Rams.
Yeah, the Rams. Yep.
But I was surprised he played for 80 games there. David Boston, 56 games. And then defensively, this is where you start getting into a lot of these guys that played a lot of games for him. Adrian Wilson, 181 games. Carlos Dansby, 122 games. Patrick Peterson, 154 games. Calais Campbell, who actually is back on the Cardinals. I think he just went back as a free agent. He's played 138 games. Darnell Dockett, 158 games. Antrell Roll, 68 games. Tyrann Matthew, 66 games. And Simeon Rice.
Honey Badger. I forget he was there.
Yeah,
Yep.
They drafted him,
They
right?
did,
Yep.
Coaches wise, they've had 43 total head coaches, and that only goes back to 1920, where the NFL season
Back before their DN was
Yeah.
also the active coach.
So it starts with Ken Wisenhunt. He coached in the most games, and he was there from 07 to 2012. He was 45-51. Jim Hanfin, he was 89 games. He was there from 1980 to 85. He was 39-49-1. Bruce Arians, he was there for 80 games from 2013 through 17. He was actually one of the only wingiest head coaches there. He was 49-30-1. Cliff Kingsbury, as of recently, he was just there for 66 games from 2019 through 22. He was 28-37-1. And then Dennis Green was there for 48 games. He was there from 04 to 06. He was 16-32.
Ooh, that's a little rough.
I don't know if you probably don't remember this, but Dennis Green's most famous moment is when they lost to the Bears.
Yeah.
On that Monday Night Football game, and he had that rant of, we let him off the hook, we had him right where we wanted him.
Yeah.
That was the big rant.
Yep.
Front office wise, owner, chairman, president is Michael Bidwell. He's been there since 2019, but ownership has been in the Bidwell family since 1933 with Charles Bidwell. That's Michael Bidwell's grandfather. And then GM is Monty Ossenport. He's been there since 2013, along with head coach Jonathan Gannon, 2023. Jonathan Gannon came from Philadelphia Eagles as the defensive coordinator. So that kind of takes us to where we're at now. They kind of got pieces in place that they've had. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. last year as a wide receiver one. Kyler Murray's on his big contract. I think 3 years into his big contract with him.
Yeah.
50-some million a year average contract with them. I don't. They always just kind of seem like a middle of a pack team, and that kind of correlates with their team history. Is just they're the team that's not going to win enough games to make the playoffs, but they're never going to be picking last either. So they're kind of middle of the pack. They just are always going to win 6 to probably 8 or 9 games.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It just kind of seems like how their history has been, like even like the last 5 or 6 years too with Kyler Murray. It's just they start off either really good or start off really bad, and then win a couple games at the end of the season to kind of make it reasonable. But it just seems like kind of like their history. Maybe with Jonathan Gannon being there, it'll be a little bit different. But
man, and at one point I really thought Kyler Murray was going to be the guy there, but he's taking a step back and doesn't seem like he can be anymore.
Yeah, I think he kind of crumbles at the end of the season, like you're talking. It just kind of seemed like at times this season it looked like, wow, they're for real. And then they go a week or two where you're like, wow, a couple of bad losses. They showed up against the Niners, beat them in last minute fashion. That was a terrible loss, and I think the Niners ended up getting them the second time, but maybe not. I don't know. It was bad, but and they looked like they had an identity of a running team, and then just but they weren't like when we talk tight ends with like Trey McBride, the guy had 2 touchdowns on the season, and that's crazy because he's one of the best tight ends in the league, and they paid him like it, but yeah, it's crazy. I don't know, man.
I wonder. I'll have to look into the specs on the contract. I wonder if he has any touchdown bonuses in there that he's never going to get.
I don't know. That may be hard to get.
They went with Connor a lot in the
they did,
in the red zone, which is cool. I mean, I like running it down there too. But man, you got to show them something different because they're doing something where it's not happening.
I wonder if it's, and I guess I never really thought about this until now, but I wonder if just with the field being condensed so much in the red zone, like Kyler Murray is 5'10", that it's just so hard for him to navigate. as throwing the ball. I don't know. That's just
Yeah.
maybe kind of spitballing right there.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
definitely. I mean, it's
I mean-
way easier to see 20 yards down the
Right.
field when the guy in front of you
Yeah.
is 6 inches taller than you, 7 inches taller than you, than it is to see 5. So
Right.
I could see that being the case.
Mhm.
James Conner, to me, I mean, I like him as a running back. I think he was just on my notable. I think he was like my number 11 on my running back top 10. I can't remember. I don't think I had him in there, but just looking at his numbers, he's constantly getting 1,000 yards. He's a good receiving threat, but he's getting up there in age. I want to say he's like 29 or 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's at that like cliff right now of running backs that going to start slowly, maybe going downhill.
Mhm.
And then just looking at their backups, they got Trey Benson, who does an okay job. He just doesn't get a lot of carries. And then Trey McBride is young. They paid him. And then looking at the receiving course, not overly impressive. You got Zay Jones, who was on their team last year, but I think he was hurt for the majority of the season. Marvin Harrison Jr. and then Michael Wilson as your receivers. It just always kind of seems like Arizona has one dude, and then everybody else is kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
Right.
You did that with like Larry Fitzgerald for the longest time. They kind of surrounded him with like Hollywood Brown towards the end of his career, and he didn't pan out. He's been on his third team now, and I don't know. It's just you look at their roster, everybody on offense is coming back. So, but then you look at their offensive numbers. I just kind of looked at them. They were 18th in passing and 11 in rushing. So middle of the pack. That's just what
Yep,
they are. They
right in
didn't
the
do
middle,
anything
yeah.
to me, they didn't really do anything to upgrade what they're going to do on offense. They still got James Conner running the ball. Still got that receiving core. You kind of hope maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of takes a little bit of more of a
Yeah,
leap.
he's gonna take a leap forward.
And then
Yeah.
he did. I mean, you kind of looked at Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. as rookies last year and how they kind of exploded a little bit.
Yep.
And I don't think Marvin Harris Jr. kind of took that next leap, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I mean, he
they're
had
kind of hoping.
he had a couple games in there. He had
Mhm.
that 1-2 touchdown game pretty early on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, there were times.
There was times where, and you
Showed
could see
flashes. Yeah.
his big body, like
Yeah.
he's a big guy. You could see that kind of come into play every once in a while, but he just doesn't seem to have the route running and the speed for this next level yet.
Yeah.
And I think they grabbed a couple of big guys on defense, though. A couple of big names there.
Even though the one's 57 years old.
They did, like I said, they brought back Calais Campbell.
Yeah, they drafted him back in
Yep.
1898 in their first season.
he was going to be in the Hall of Fame here pretty soon, maybe for them.
Yeah.
They biggest move they made off season was probably that Josh Sweat. They
Yep.
paid him a whole bunch of money to come in to be a / outside linebacker, defensive end, because they consider themselves a 3-4 team, so he's technically an outside linebacker. But and
Yeah,
then,
he's gonna be a menace if
Yeah.
he plays like he did in Philly.
Right.
Then he's gonna be
Which,
a menace.
I mean, you never know because Hassan Reddick fell off after leaving Philly.
right,
that's true.
So it could
Yeah.
be a big signing. It could be a huge waste of money.
maybe he
Mhm.
was just a product of the people around him when you're playing against with Jalen Carter and that other defensive tackle that was really good.
Oh, with Philly.
Yeah. He ended up going to the
No,
Patriots.
yeah. I can't
I
think of it
can't
right
think of it right now either.
And
But
then Nolan Smith playing the other defensive end. So maybe he's just I mean, they're kind of banking on him not being a product of the system, but he is coming from Philly, which Jonathan Gannon was the defensive coordinator there, so he kind of knows what he's getting.
Right. I think I think they had to do something because I mean you got the Rams, they're ready to go on the passing game.
Yep.
You got the Seahawks. If
the Seahawks are not at all ready to go for the passing game.
yeah, I'm just saying, man, if it works out with the quarterback and everything there,
Yeah.
then they'll be all right. I think they're going to draft
Yeah.
a wide receiver.
I don't know. I
Niners.
think he's going to have to wait 5 seconds just to get somebody open. So.
Kyle Shanahan sure does like to throw the ball a lot sometimes. So I mean, yeah, they needed to get to the quarterback here, and mainly because of the Rams. But
Yeah.
because they're ready to go.
But I
they've
mean, the
got-
Seahawks made it work with Geno, and he ended up passing insane, and who
Mhm.
expected that? So we'll see that
Right.
probably with Sam.
I mean, it is the way of the NFL, but the NFC West. I mean, that's why the Rams just got better.
Yeah.
I think,
And it's
Devontae
crazy 'cause
Adams and all that. So.
They're in this pass-heavy division, even though every single team could run the ball super well too.
Mhm.
Right.
Which
Yep.
Josh Sweat, I mean, mainly pass rusher, but he stops the run pretty well
Mhm.
too. So it was a good pickup.
Yeah, they had to go get somebody, and that, seems like a good pickup so far.
As far as where they go in the draft, and I don't know. I mean, I guess they filled the needs that they needed to in free agency as far as on the defensive side of the ball. I could see them maybe getting somebody on the interior as a defensive tackle because if you're going to rely on Calais Campbell being 38, 39, or however old he is.
78.
he was there when they were back in the Phoenix Cardinals.
Yeah.
I could see them maybe first overall pick going defensive tackle and picking 16. If you're in that range, you're looking at maybe like Derek Harmon, if he's still available. I'm not sure if he's going to get picked up early enough. If he's there, I could see Derek Harmon going there. He's a bigger body.
I don't see him making it down that far,
right.
but
yeah. And then
Espin sees him making it down that far. They have projected 23rd.
Do they?
Oh, really?
Another name is that Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant from Michigan. I think Mason Graham is the number one defensive tackle rated, but
yeah, Mason Graham actually here on Espin, they have him as the third ranked prospect in the draft.
Maybe
right
that's
now.
what I was thinking when you said it was Mason Graham.
Yeah.
So
Derek Harmon from Oregon, and then Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan. I could see them going one of those three guys in the first round. As far as offense, I think they're pretty much set.
I know they already picked up a first round wide receiver.
Yeah.
But I mentioned Ted Roy McMillan for like every team right now, but that's the range we're in, and I think he'd be a good fit if say something happens and Derek Carmen also falls super low and DTs just go crazy, then I could see Ted Roy McMillan being a good option.
I like that.
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as you guys. I was thinking whoever's there. I think if it's going to be defensive tackle, defensive line help, or if there's a wide receiver there, and I think it depends on how comfortable they feel with Marvin Harrison at this point. Because that's, that'd be 2 years picking a wide receiver number, in the first round, like you said.
Yeah.
But I really think it's how comfortable they feel with him and his progression. But I like that too, and I actually was thinking it was that I don't know if what was that wide receiver? Not Detroit, but
are you thinking like Masula Slurther Burden or
Luther Burden?
Yeah,
Luther Burden. That's what I have down. So I was going the same way. I've got Walter Nolan or Luther Burden. I think you could go both ways. I think it depends.
Then I think another
if they're comfortable with them though.
Yeah, off of Espin's best available, they have both Will Campbell and Kevin Banks down there at 18 and 19. So if one of those guys fall, every team in the league can use some O-line help.
True.
I think I agree with what Brandon said. Best available player, and if you get an offensive tackle that ends up dropping, depending on what happens the first probably half of the draft, is if one of those guys falls in their lap, I can definitely see them grabbing one of those guys up.
Yeah, I think their positions that they aren't going to go with, really the only one is quarterback or
probably tight end.
Yeah, or tight end.
Tyler Warren's or Colston sitting there, I don't think they're going to pick them up.
No,
when you're paying.
But they might trade back to a team that wants one of those two.
That's true, yeah. That is true.
And trading back at this point wouldn't be a bad idea either, because we mentioned they're not getting any younger at running back. And so if you did trade back, you could possibly put yourself in to get probably the top running back. I don't see anybody
I don't know
really
about
running
top
back needy coming before them.
I don't know about top running back. I think Genty's going to go top 10.
Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, I guess
the second or third guy.
Right, I guess I just figured Genty's going in the top 10. You're right.
Yeah, second or third guy running
back. Yeah. I do feel like Genty's kind of off the board for anybody in my opinion, until we get to like 5.
Yeah.
So like that Omari and Hampton from North Carolina could be a good pick for him, and they could probably trade back like 6 spots and still be able to get him.
Yeah, I liked one of those Ohio State running backs if they are still available in that second round, because I think they're 46th.
Yeah, Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. I like Quinshawn better, but either one I think will get the job done.
I think so. Maybe as somebody just to kind of be take the load off Connor a little bit in that second round.
Yeah, like I said, definitely developer.
I get offensive wise. You looking at their tackle wise situation, they have that Paris Johnson that they drafted in the first round 2 years ago. I'm not too familiar with how he's played. I'm not. To be honest
I think he's playing good enough that it's not a first or second round need. But I think the opposite side of tackle they can get better.
Yeah, they do have that Jonah Williams from Cincinnati, but I'm not sure. And then the other names just don't resonate with me. They have Evan Brown, who came from Seattle at left guard. Some guy at center. I cannot pronounce his name. I'm sorry. And then right guard they have Isaiah Adams. Isaiah Adams, who they drafted in the third round last year. So I don't know, the best available. If they get one of those tackles, if they're happy with one of those tackles, then maybe they bump them down to a guard in the first round. If Campbell or Membu is there, that just happened to fall in their lap, or even Banks falls in their lap, draft them and just let him play guard until if that's the best situation for them.
Yeah, if that Membu falls, I mean, I don't see if he falls outside the top 10, I think 11 is going to pick him up.
Yeah,
I would
well,
think.
maybe
I
not
would
11,
hope.
but
I would hope the Niners would not let somebody like that fall down.
yeah, I mean,
but yeah,
that's what I said. Maybe not 11 though. They'll probably see him fall down to 11, and be like, oh, yep, D tackle.
Yep. I don't know. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to be status quo in 2025. They're probably going to either start off hot and fizzle out, or they're going to kind of start off slow. I think they'll probably start off hot just because of the offense is all intact from next year, so I can see them kind of clicking a little bit. But there's just something with Kyler Murray towards the end of the season that they kind of fizzle out.
Yeah.
And so I can see them finishing right around 14 to 16 range again, as far as what they're going to be picking next year. Probably somewhere between 7 and 9 wins. So just outside of the playoffs, probably in the NFC.
So here we talked about Kyler Murray not playing at the end of the year. And he's what, 28, 29?
Mm-hmm.
So what if they go late round draft pick up Dylan Gabriel?
Yeah.
And then maybe week 14, maybe he's ready to play, steps in.
Yeah. Yep.
Or, even a couple seasons down the line.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I can see that.
I agree.
He's same size, it seems like, as Kyler Murray. He's pretty short in stature. I don't think he's as athletic as Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray is coming off of an ACL 2 years ago, so he's already had that injury history. It always, even before the ACL, it kind of seemed like it was always shoulder or something going on with him. He's just a small guy. He's like 5'10". He's not a whole lot. I mean, he's a little bit stout, but when you're 5 foot playing quarterback and you're an athletic quarterback, you're going to be taking some hits. So.
But if they want to go the same route, super athletic guy like Kyler Murray, there's also Jalen Milroe who you could get in the later rounds.
That is true, yeah.
So if they like that type of play, I mean, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think they're going to take a quarterback late round.
Yeah, I think this is the year for them to try and develop a late round quarterback. Same thing as like, I don't know if you'd pick as high as where Jordan Love was picked, but kind of run that same thing. And I love that. As much as I hate Jordan Love, I love what they did with him. Yeah. Developing the quarterback is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they shocked me this last season to get even where they did. To be honest with you, I didn't think they were even going to be vying for the NFC West. But of course, Niners shocked me on how bad they played too. But so I mean, you get teams there, and they were right in the mix of that coming to the end. With the Seahawks and the Rams there. So that shocked me. I don't think that I agree with you 100%. I think they might be looking at it a little bit in the NFC West division. They're not. I don't think they're. I don't think they're going to be last.
Okay, this might be kind of a hot take then. I think they're a 10-11 win team.
Are you?
Second in the West.
Like what they've done?
Yeah, I like what they've done. Like, I'm really questionable about the Josh Sweat pickup because it just seems to happen with those guys from Philly. Almost doesn't matter what position. They don't play as well after they leave Philly. But, I like what they've done, and I think if they have a good enough draft, I think they can really compete.
For that division, I like what they've done comparatively to the Niners.
And the Seahawks.
And the Seahawks, yeah, for the most part. I don't,
the Rams. Yeah, that's why I have them second in the West, honestly. Unless the Niners really pull something together in the draft, I think we're looking at a slump there. The Seahawks, I think they're looking at a slump. I think they're going to be sitting there competing probably 2 or 3 games behind the Rams.
I think with the question mark with Sweat, I still feel like, though, even with the exodus of talent that the Niners had, I still feel like for some reason, I still think they have more talent. I still feel like they have more talent than this Cardinals team.
I think they have more talent, but Shanahan inconsistent with his play calling on, not inconsistent, but if he could just run the ball more. I feel like there's just the coaching. I really like what they got going on in Arizona coaching wise more than talent wise.
Right, and that's kind of where I was going with that too. Is just, but overall, I mean, I don't think anybody has a warm fuzzy feeling about, the only team that does in the NFC West should be the Rams. Because I feel like they're the only ones who gained quite a bit in the free agency. But I don't know. I think I'll probably have them close to where I had them last year, maybe a little bit higher when we do our power rankings. I agree with Jared. I think they're going to be kind of looking at it, but they're middle of the pack. I think he said it best when he was talking about being middle of the pack. It does seem like that again, unless they get a big hit in the draft, a home run hit.
They're due for one, man. They're due for one. It's gonna happen.
Yep.
Dylan Gabriel, 7th-round pick, 6th-round pick, and he's gonna be next Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think
that's what they're due for.
Let's snag him probably a little bit earlier than that. I think.
Yeah,
but
he'll have to
I
be
hear what
probably
you're saying,
5th,
though.
4th or 5th. But
all right, yeah, no, that was a great deep dive. That's crazy. We did find our oldest team. I think you mentioned it when we were talking about it, the Cardinals, and I was trying to get you to not, so that way we could wait and see, maybe get some interaction. We didn't anyway, but yeah, you were right on there with the Cardinals. I didn't realize that they had, gone back that far. To be honest with you,
yeah, I thought it was what they're moving 1909 or the reinstatement or whatever. I didn't know it was back to 1898. I didn't know they were that old.
Right.
But yeah, I was thinking in that 1909, 1910 era.
It almost makes you wonder, like, if you could go back in time, and because there's obviously no video of it, but what kind of football they were playing in 1898.
Right.
Dude, I feel like that would have been so much fun. Just you'd sit there, just crack a beer at every quarter and drink it, then go back out, play some ball. Yeah,
smoking cigars,
and
stuff like that on the sideline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a good one, and they are really not a great franchise.
No.
Like as far as win loss, that was pretty bad.
11.
I knew they were.
appearances,
Yeah,
man.
I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. So.
Yeah, I thought they at least had 16 or 17, man. Playoff appearances.
Yeah, hell of a dive though. That was really good. Good episode. We appreciate you guys watching, and thanks again to Rock for music, which we will get out on YouTube eventually. We're trying to figure out how to run that, but yeah, thanks.